Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm just going to be talking about interview questions for a teller position, or also known as an associate banker position. If you'd like to hear the questions that they asked me during my interview, then please just keep on watching. Okay, so I have the questions here on my other phone. I'm just going to read the questions they asked me. I'll try to give kind of a brief explanation of things that I think that you should say when they ask you these questions, or things that I said. I did get the job. I've been working there for, next week will be my 3rd week, so 2 weeks so far. I just want to point out that a lot of the questions that they asked me were kind of behavioral, situational questions. They didn't really have much to do with knowing how to do certain things. It was kind of just how you would deal with customers. It's more customer service oriented. And so I would definitely try to have some examples on hand of different situations that you've experienced in any position that you've had at any job. Just try to think of different experiences, and if you need to, just come up with random things. You don't have to actually say things that happened. That's what I do a lot of times when they ask me questions and it kind of throws me off guard. I just make something up on the spot and I just kind of go with it. It doesn't have to be real. It just needs to be a good example of whatever they're asking you, and something that you think would make you look good. The first question they asked me is talking about an experience with a customer that was mad. That one I feel like is easy because everybody's had an experience with a customer who's mad. And really all you have to do is explain why the customer was mad, and just talked about how you remained calm and patient and how you solved it. And make sure that everything that they ask you, any situation that they ask you, make sure that you end it on a positive note, as in you solving the issue and then the customer being happy. That's something that they want to know that you can do, or just want to hear and think that that's something that you can do. You don't want to just say that the customer was in the wrong or whatever and you didn't want to deal with it and whatever. You always have to make sure that in your explanations, even if in real life this didn't happen, then they left happy. You made sure that they were satisfied, because that's what they want to hear. The next question they asked me was, what's my experience with customer service? So I just talked about, what I did, the different roles that I played with customers. Like on the teller line, you're obviously the first people that are dealing with the customer, the member, the guest, whatever. So you obviously have to be the one that gives off a good first impression, and you're also going to be the one where if they need to see a banker, you're going to make sure that you listen to what they need and make sure you get them to the right person. So just kind of talk about how you interact with customers, how much you interacted with them, what did you do with the customers. The next one, they asked me what my strengths were. They didn't ask me what my weaknesses were, which was a little shocking to me, but they asked me what my strengths were, and every time I talk about a strength, I talk about why that strength is important to have, and maybe even include an example. For example, I said I was very patient. I'm a very patient person. That's an important trait to have, because you have to be willing to be patient with the customers. You have to be willing to explain things over and over and over until they understand something, and something like that. Another one is a situation where your coworkers disagreed with you. Basically, I related it to they didn't agree with me on how I can improve something, or how we as a whole could improve something in the branch. And I explained why my idea was such a good idea, and they actually agreed with my idea, but I totally made it up. So obviously I made myself look good, and then at the end I just, I didn't say that I held a grudge or whatever. you have to make sure that you explain that it's okay for them to disagree with you sometimes, and you're not going to take it too hard. So another question they asked me is, how do you respond when you're not getting along with a coworker? So kind of same thing there. I just said that I pull them aside, and I try to talk it out with them. Obviously, I also give them space, and I remain kind and courteous because I value my relationships with my coworkers, and I just try to work it out. If they ask you for a specific example, which they didn't ask me for one, make sure it ends on a positive note always. How would you coach someone on building trust? So that one is important because the place that that I interviewed for, I should say, it's very big on being ethical and trustworthy. So that one was a very hard question for me to answer. And it's not because I'm not trustworthy, it's just sometimes it depends on the situation on how you want to be trustworthy. As I said, to follow through on your word, be knowledgeable in whatever that you say, be there for them, and be honest. They also asked me, tell me about yourself outside of work. So with that question, you want to make sure that even though you're talking about yourself outside of work, you're not going to say, oh, I like to go out and party, this and this and that. What I said was I'm always looking to improve myself outside of work. So I like to work out because it challenges me both physically and mentally. And I also like to read a lot of books. Right now I'm currently reading 92 Ways on How to Talk to Anyone. They were very impressed with the book one. So if you need any tips, that one's a good one. In another job interview that I went to, I had mentioned that I was studying e-commerce, building a website, learning to sell online. That's another thing, which is true, but I just don't do that anymore. So they also asked me, how do you access your bank account? I think an important thing to banks right now is online and mobile. So that's something you definitely want to emphasize. I already access my bank account online. I use the mobile app. But if you don't and you like to go in the bank, you should still say that you use the mobile app. I said that I like the mobile app because it's very convenient. It has everything that I need on there. They also asked me, if you had to deposit a check, what would you do? So again, online mobile banking. I said that I would deposit it online through the mobile app, and if I didn't do it through there, I would deposit it through the ATM. If it was a larger check, I would go to the teller. Online banking, very important, mobile banking. They asked me what were my short-term and my long-term goals for after you finish school. So go ahead and tell them. Where do you see yourself in 1 year in this position? I told them that I'm always looking for opportunities to grow and to continue leveling up in whatever job that I'm in. I said that I would like to be the best that I can be at that role, and if the time comes, I would like to continue to move up in positions. Another question they asked me was to tell them a good experience that I had helping a customer with technology. So for that one, I mentioned about how at the credit union, I used to help them set up their online banking, and what we would do is that we would set it up online, and I would just help them on the computer at first, and then I would help them log in and access their mobile app, and I would just show them how to navigate through it. The last question that I wrote down, they asked me a lot of questions because I went to 2 interviews, by the way. If you make a mistake, how would you address it? For this question, I mentioned about how if I made a mistake, I would obviously own it and try to, one, solve the mistake. If I can't solve the mistake on my own, then I would go to somebody higher up and I would ask them for help on how to fix this mistake. After fixing this mistake, I would make sure that I learned from it and really took the time to understand where I went wrong in this mistake to avoid making this mistake ever again. They also asked me why this bank. I don't want to say the name because I could get in trouble, so I'm not going to say the name on where I work. Just make sure you do your research on this one. And always make sure you research the institution that you're applying for. You want to know a lot of information about the institution, so just in case they ask you about what you know, you have some things to talk about. You just want to know whatever is important to them. You want to make sure that that knowledge is important to you. So those are the questions that I remember from the interview. If you have any more questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. If you would like to see what I wore to the interview, also comment that down below. I know a lot of people were asking me to show them examples of things that I wore to work. I didn't do it before because I'm kind of not that comfortable posting videos of my body. But if you guys really want to see, then I'll go ahead and make a video on it. If you want to see a video on how I feel working at a bank is different from a credit union, also comment that down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.